Dobrý. Why did you choose this topic?
It sounds cliche, but sometimes the topics choose you because it's not my experience. So I think that it was a series of small sort of accidental steps that led me to the story. First, I was in film school and I wanted to make a film about a subject that was important. And I didn't know what it was going to be. And while I was thinking of ideas, this article came out about a group of immigrants that had been trapped inside of a trailer in Texas. And so I made a short film about this event, and while doing research for the short film, I learned about how immigrants were crossing Mexico on freight trains, which seemed fascinating to me, but I wasn't planning on making a feature yet. And then the short film went on to go to Sundance and many other film festivals, and it won an award at Sundance. And Sundance runs these filmmaking labs, screenplay and directing labs, and I'd always wanted to take part, and they asked me if I had a script to submit for the lab, and I didn't. But I had this thing I'd learned about from the short film, and it made sense to try to write a feature script that was similar to the short film so that it'd be an easier transition into making a feature film. And so I started to write the feature script and started to do research, and the more I did the research, the more I sort of had the need to finish it and the responsibility to do it and tell it well. And so, I ended up making this film despite not being a Latin American myself.
Did you use special sets for the scenes, or is it a real environment? I mean, the flats of the gangsters and...
It's a mixture of both. There's probably close to 40% of the movie is on the trains, but we only had 5 days to shoot on a real train because it's expensive and it's definitely dangerous. Not because of the gangs or anything like that, but because having 150 crew and then 100 extras and equipment on a train, on a real moving train, is extremely dangerous. And if you fall off the train, you could fall underneath the wheels and not just lose a limb, but lose your life. So to be safer, we built this sort of fake, top of a train. And we built that on top of trailers that we drove around country roads. And then we were able to simulate being on top of the train, even though we weren't on a train anymore. And, we'd just keep the camera low so that you could obscure the horizon. But a lot of the sort of action-type scenes take place on that trailer and not on a real train. So that was a set. And then, but most of the exterior locations were real locations. Even the house, the Destroyer house, which is the house of the gang members, is partially real and then partially built. So, because I had the shot planned from the beginning where the camera would come into the house and we'd kind of meander in the house before we got to the end. And we had to build the first part of the house. So Pache, Claudio Contreras, the production designer, we sat down and we tried to figure out what kind of space we wanted. And then we found a parking lot in a building next to the airport, which was a mistake because it was next to the airport. As all sound people know, an airplane is not a fun thing to have around. But it was the perfect location to have the gang house because that house we had to shoot. Probably we shot for 6 weeks, and 4 out of the 6 weeks we were shooting in Mexico City. So, in fact, Mexico City had a double for Honduras, had a double for Chiapas, had a double for even Texas. So, yeah.
How did you work with the non-actors and especially with children in the scene when Smiley is talking about his killing mission?
Working with children in Mexico is great because you can abuse them. And I'm just kidding earlier. We didn't abuse any kids in the process of making this film, but that particular scene, for example, I had a script, and I worked with kids before, and I've done mentoring in theater groups and stuff with children. I actually enjoy working with kids more because they're much more spontaneous and natural than adult actors are, and definitely the tone of this film is much realistic and naturalistic, and kids are perfect for that. And I just kind of explained to them what I wanted, and I wanted one of them asking questions, and I wanted Smiley to be kind of showing off in front of his friends, and I just let them go, and then we just shot it like that. And that was one of my favorite scenes to shoot because you don't really have to direct kids that much. You just tell them to ask questions, and they're already naturally curious.
This is your first feature film, but it seems to be, for me, very masterful done. How do you pick up so much experience or developed skills considering to your age?
I don't know. I don't feel like it's... I can see where I didn't do things as well as I wanted to in the film, so I see things differently when I watch the film. I still feel like I have a lot to develop, and I wrote this script in 2005 and directed it in 2007, and it's 2009 now. So I always feel like I'm developing still, and I would never consider myself a masterful filmmaker. It's for other people to decide. But I have the things that I want to accomplish still, and so I feel like I have a lot to learn. So, yeah.
And what's your new project about?
The new film I'm writing right now, I'm very excited about actually, is a musical, but not like a dance musical, not like a Broadway musical. It's I think I'm going to collaborate with a very talented new composer who's also a singer in his own right, and we're trying to. Well, at least I'm writing this sort of modern day fairy folk tale, sort of like in the realm of the Brothers Grimm or Hans Christian Andersen, but it takes place in this contemporary world and partially in a fantasy world. And then the music will be sort of more sort of like indie neoclassical music. So it'll be an interesting project. I just wanted to combine music I liked with sort of a story that wasn't couched in realism, because I've been doing realism for so many of the last years. I need a change. So that's what I'm working on right now. So I'm very happy to be able to bend the rules of reality in a story and not have to make it so detailed and so couched in truth and research and that side of things.